What's going on, guys? Dan here, DD Speed Shop. Today, it's amateur, we're doing LS stuff. Now, I had pulled this motor a couple of videos ago out of a 2003 or 4 3/4 ton 4x4 Chevy truck. And the idea was to put this motor in a 56 Chevy wagon, which we already have, which has a small block in it. So over the past year, we've done a little bit more travel, we've done power tour, and on a lot of those things, we were seeing guys with LS motors, overdrive transmissions, all these fancy doodads. So we did take my 57 Chevy, which has a 6-liter LS, but no overdrive. So that's what we're gonna put in this wagon. I also have a 10-bolt rear end I'm excited to put in there. So it's gonna be like modern 1980s. Who'd have thought? Anyway, there's a pile of LS content out there. Obviously, you guys know that. It seems like everybody's doing LS swaps, but there's still a lot of confusion and kind of basic stuff around it. And when I look at LS stuff, it's either buy brand new everything, it all bolts together, and you just Visa card everything, or there's guys that are pulling harnesses and using, we'll use a Camaro manifold and a this and a that and all this little stuff, which is, if you're into LS motors, I'm sure it makes a lot of sense because you have all sorts of parts. Kind of how I feel with small block Chevys and big block Chevys. I have one of everything so I can make something work. I don't have any parts. What you see from the truck is what I kept, and I spent a few dollars, and we're going to put this thing together. So it's kind of middle of the road. We're going to spend a few dollars for sure, but I think it's the best bang for your buck. Now this is, like I said, out of an 03 3/4 ton. So it's an LQ4, I believe. I don't know a whole lot about these things. People always talk, Gen 3, Gen 4. I believe in 2005 or 6, they stepped up to the Gen 4 stuff, which supposedly is better if you're going to make big horsepower and boost. We're not doing that. We're running essentially stock. This was a drive-by-wire setup, which we're going to change to drive-by-cable. I might be putting a 4L80 behind it or maybe a 700R4. I don't know which one I'll do because it's going to be such a low horsepower application being stock. I'll probably use the 700 and save the 4L80 for another project which maybe could take more power. So today's video, we're going to be stripping this thing down as to what we need and don't need. We're going to clean it up just a little bit. I've learned that these LS motors, they're ugly. There's no bones about it. They're ugly motors. In the last one I did, I made it look all nice, painted the block orange, all these things. Couldn't see a damn thing by the time it was in the car. Now, this is going to be like Tri-5 kind of related. That's what's going in. But I believe anything, Camaro, Chevelle, all that stuff, probably very similar in a lot of things. So I'm into the motor for no dollars, but around here, pulled 6 liters, $1,000 give or take. With wiring harness. I did not take the wiring harness. I'm going to be spending the money to do a Holly kit. Everybody has their own way of doing things. I think the Holly kit works good. It's not cheap. There's no bones about it, but you get a lot of bang for your buck. It's very simple to put in. It looks clean. You get a little digital display with all the gauges, and you go from there. If you want to do it yourself, you can, but you have to download some sort of a HP tuners or maybe there's other ones out there. And again, I know very little to break into the system, and that can turn off the security, turn off the rear O2s, do a few little things like that. But I think by the time you buy the program and the credits to do it, I think you're $300 or $400 into it anyways. You got to buy a wideband, which is probably $300 or $400, and then you have no gauges, so you're already $700 or $800. I didn't want to do that. I think I'm going to spend the $1,500 for me to buy the Holly unit, and that'll control everything, and it'll be done, and then it's ready for boost, nitrous, whatever you want to do. It's got 2-step, turns the fans on and off. There's a lot of stuff with it. Controls the fuel pump. Works pretty good. Now, this is the more vintage LS stuff, so I guess the more modern ones do have shutdown cylinders and kind of all those things. Obviously, we're not doing that because we don't have any of that. So that is that. The intake manifold, it says a drive-by wire. So I did go on Rock Auto, if I could find the box. Oh, right here. I bought myself a genuine AC Delco throttle body. So this is basically just off an older truck. I think in 99, 2000, maybe 2001, they had drive-by cable. So that's what we're gonna do. AC Delco came with a new throttle position and whatever else sensor this is. And now we'll just have to modify. Well, actually this might be good. We'll have to see. I might have to change a few things around, but obviously the cable's gonna come in and around. Grab that as you pull, it'll open it. This will be, I guess, for either kickdown or this might be overdrive. But if we chop that off and we do a little bit of work with a protractor, we can probably, oh yeah, we gotta change it the other way. But if we can change it the other way, it'll act as a pull and we can use that for a kickdown, TV cable, whatever it is for a mechanical transmission. So that was, I say it was $100. Another thing to be aware of, at some point, they went to 4-bolt throttle bodies. This being an old one, it's a 3-bolt. The next thing I spent money on, which I did before my last Tri-5, and I really think is worth the money, is an oil pan. This is a Holly pan. I got it off Amazon. Again, I think it was $300 or $350. I'll show you the rest of the motor. We'll do a quick walk around when I show you all the sensors and stuff, but it's very shallow. And I assume, I don't know actually, but I think the sump is further back. Where's the drain plug? Maybe not, I don't know. Now this pan fit perfectly in my 57 Chevy. No modifications. There's all sorts of pans out there, so do a little bit of research. This one's, I think it's a 302-2 or something like that. It's the smallest one they make. GM Performance makes one which is slightly bigger, and Holly makes one which is slightly bigger. I'm sure there's all sorts of knockoffs out there. Just be aware it's going to fit for you. This is great for a rear steer. So the steering is behind the cross member, so it becomes real tight against there. But fit perfect, I have no issues. Obviously, I spent the money and I'm doing it again. The kit came with pickup tube and an oil pan gasket, so we'll be changing that today. The other thing I bought, these are headers. Now, a lot of people get away with using manifolds. You can cut and weld on these, which is nice. The problem you run into on a Tri-5, and probably Novas and stuff that's a little bit tighter of a package, is the steering. So I bought these. These are Speedway brand, or Speedway sells them. They're Clipsters. They're all cheapo. I had the same exact ones on my 57. They fit perfect. These were really cheap. I think they were $150 out of their garage sale section. I opened the box and they have been installed and beaten on a little bit. So I guess be aware if you're buying garage sale stuff. It's like swap meet. Anyways, those should go on nicely and fit in perfect mid-length headers. They have the little bung for O2, so those will go together just great. I shouldn't have any issues. Lastly, I don't have them yet. Another thing I spent money on, motor mounts. I use these, I used them before. They're called Dirty Dingo slider mounts. I'll show you an upcoming video. I wish I had them, but just the way of the mail. They essentially change a big block, small block Chevy into LS, and they slide, as it says in the directions, forward and back, maybe a couple inches. I don't know what it is. So versus putting on, if you look at LS mounts on eBay, Amazon, whatever it is, universal ones, typically a plate goes on and you have multiple bolt holes. You can try bolting them on. Well, these are infinitely adjustable. They're really slick. They're not cheap, but I really liked them and they kind of made it easy. So those are the things that I spent money on. The rest of it we should be able to get away with fairly cheaply. I know this setup will fit under the hood of that Tri-5 without any issues. Those Dirty Dingo mounts do raise the motor up maybe 3/4 of an inch, which does help with clearance as well if you're worried about the oil pan touching anything. So that's all kind of important stuff. So that's in a nutshell what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to show you this little motor here. Anybody that's a little timid about LS's, they're real simple. If you just kind of go ahead and, once you get all the junk off of them, it's a small block Chevy. Just keep that in your head and you'll be fine. So let's walk around this unit. Okay, another LS thing, or whatever you want to do. Truck obviously is where most LS motors come from, the cheap ones I should say. Truck stuff has truck accessories, so you got to be accepting of that. They're a little ugly. It is what it is. Again, we're not going for, well, I mean, everything else here is pretty, right? So why would this be? So we're going to go ahead and use all the truck accessories. It should work fine. We'll delete a few things, power steering being one of them. We'll just use this bracket. Power steering will be deleted. And then in the past, I've done something. I changed the routing and I put another pulley on. I'll have to look at my other car because you end up with a long stretch, and that will, in fact, whip the belt off at all the RPM. I've learned that lesson. We're also going to pull off the air conditioning unit. We don't need that. These things run their own separate serpentine belt. That's coming right off as well. Motor mounts, obviously they'll be ditched. They just kind of bolt onto the block. Exhaust manifold. These endlessly break, which by the looks of it, they already have one broken off head there, one broken off head there. That's what you hear an LS motor go thuff, 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 thuff out the exhaust. We'll take those off. We're going to break a bunch of bolts, and I'll show you how to do it. I'm sure you've again seen that a million times. You weld a washer on and a nut. The heat helps it, and it'll come right out. So that's pretty simple. The only things to be aware for the physical unit fitting in, obviously your motor mounts and whatnot, is the ring gear. So the crankshaft length is different depending on what LS you get. Now, these ones, because it's a 6-liter, has a flat flex plate, I believe. So it's kind of standard small block, big block Chevy stuff. So it will, I think this one, don't quote me, we'll do a little bit of research. I think this one will bolt directly to an old style transmission. The bell housing is all the same. There's one less bolt or one more bolt or something along those lines, but it's irrelevant. It all bolts up. Some of them have a dished ring gear, and in those cases you have to buy a spacer kit or something along those lines to make it all work out. Really not the end of the world. Also, the torque converter where it bolts, we'll have to oblong these holes just a little bit if you're going with something older. Just a slightly different bolt pattern, but you go ahead and put that on there. A little bit of Loctite and a washer. There's no issues. I've been running that in my 57 with a Turbo 400 on it. We've probably got 10 or 15,000 miles. That's kind of the deal there. Again, don't panic. So now, we're looking at a small block Chevy here. Instead of a distributor, we've got these coil packs, which are all controlled via this thing, which goes into the Holly once we have it. These things here, I believe, are your knock sensors. Who cares about those? Look at that. Small block Chevy, that's your oil pressure, or maybe that's oil pressure, one or the other. One's cam, one's camshaft, I believe, and then that one, maybe it's crank. I don't know. There's just a couple of sensors there you got to work on. Oh yeah, look at this oil pan. Look how deep that is. It's huge. So we're eliminating quite a bit of that. Otherwise, we have temperature sender in the cylinder head, and then there's some stuff up here, obviously, that'll be going to here. Mass airflow. I don't know what else goes in there. Something. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. If Mortsky can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. So that's kind of that. We're going to start tearing this thing down. We're going to go ahead and clean it up. We're going to put a coat of just black paint on it, change the oil pan, and just make it so it's going to be ready to dump in the car. Very, very simple. Oh, one more thing. The way the coolant passages come out, different on LS motor and small block Chevy, so be aware of that. You're going to be doing some screwing around, but it's not the end of the world. I think it's maybe Ford's like that. I don't know. You got to come up with some sort of your own cooler lines or heater core lines, I should say, sorry. But man, they fit easy. Everything is made for these things, and they just freaking work. They're ugly, and they don't sound very cool, but they work. Okay, now let me give you a play-by-play of what's going to happen here. We're going to break half these exhaust manifold bolts because they're all rotted. Oh, that's not bad, actually. We're going to use the old rattle gun, see if that'll help. Now, if you really care, you could probably put a bunch of heat on them and screw around all that stuff, but we're just going to break every single one. Holy moly, it came out. I'm shocked. This one might need a... Rotten. Don't worry, I got the tool to fix it. Gentle. So I just pulled the plug wires off. We'll put new ones of those in there with new spark plugs because we're fancy. Holy Toledo. I did not see this coming. Oh, now I've jammed it in there. Pause. Okie doke. So, this here is our broken stud, and if you're LS swapping, you're going to go ahead and be needing to fix that. So, what we're going to use is a 3/8 washer and a 3/8 nut, obviously. America to the rescue, as per usual. So, we're going to weld the washer, I'm going to put this nut down here, to the stud. Now, obviously, being an aluminum head, you don't got to worry about too much. Look at all this. Might not be safety-wise. We're going to keep junk out of the cylinder head, so that's nice. Whoops. So we're going to go... Man, you guys are always in the way with this damn camera. So weld this here washer on. Now sometimes, most of the time, this will actually be, the stud will be broken flush with the head, in which case sometimes you got to put a little bit of weld on what you can see just to kind of hold it. Then once over. Now, not only are we using this to get it out, we're also adding a bunch of heat to it. Heat solves problems. Now, of course, it's going to be embarrassing when I do all this and it doesn't work. I have the utmost confidence in the second try as well. So, remember when I said it'll break off flush? That's exactly what we did. So, round 2. So now, what we have here is a broken off stud right in the head. So we're going to give it a little one of those to kind of stick out. Not too bad. I'm going to wash it out of my pocket. Gentle, gentle. So now we'll place that over that. Hot! Hot! Hang on. Apparently, you'll know those pliers would be all right there. Okay, well. So now we got the washer welded to the broken off stud. I'll go ahead and take this nut. Try this again. She's hot. Let's see what happens here. I feel like we're moving it. I wish I had a little spray grease right around here, but they... Okay, so working back and forth a little. She'll come out. Aluminum cylinder heads, steel hardware, steel exhaust manifolds. So what happens is, I believe, don't quote me on this, is the aluminum cylinder head expands at probably a different rate than the steel exhaust manifolds, which will result in different stretch and shrinking. Thus, becomes foo bar. I can just use the wrong size socket on this at this point, I think. As I said, we'll be doing this a few times. Okay, welded another nut on there and got a little penetrating oil, so we'll see if that makes a difference. The trick is, get angry, make the job 10 times harder, right? No, don't do that. Remain calm. Okay, I think we got her. I don't know why I say these things out loud. Yeah, she's coming out. So, I don't know how many broke on the other side, but let's go ahead and assume there's at least 2 per side. And the best part is, this will continue to happen, even with headers and all that, so you might as well get good at it. And doing it in the car is probably way crappier. Well, I know it's actually way crappier, but it's nice doing stuff on the engine stand, eh? With the audience, judging. As I take my time here, man. I wonder if this is just going to be in time lapse or not. Oh yeah, there we go. So there we go. Came out, obviously the threads, they're not gacked or nothing. It just simply expands, breaks, and she's junk. So we'll get that one dialed together. I'll get the other one all taken apart while we're at it. Okay, so we got, there was only one broken bolt on the other side, so we got away pretty lucky. So motor mounts off, AC compressor off. I'm going to take the water pump off. I'll probably put a new one on. They're a few bucks, but you know what? Well, it's all apart. Paint it nice. I'll do all that. The power steering, as I recall, is a hassle to get the pump out. I think you got to pull the pulley off to get to the mountain bolts. So we'll see how we tackle that. I feel like a grinder will be involved. And just like that, we have a mostly stripped down Chevy motor. I pulled off the oil cooler lines, made a bit of a mess, but that'll all be part of the oil pan when we swap that out. So the last thing to come off is the power steering, and it's all coming back to me. It bolts on, there's a bolt there, and there's one on the other side. So I think what I did before is I just cut this pulley with a zip disc, undid, spun, undid, and took it out. I'm sure there's a puller and all sorts of stuff we can use for that, but well, I'm not using power steering on this Tri-5 Chevy, and well, I'm not using power steering on this Tri-5 Chevy, so it's no big deal. I'll take it apart. I don't want to mangle up the bracket in case I want to put something on down the road, but for now, it'll be fine. And then, well, then what are we gonna do? We might as well, you know, chip off some of this paint, paint the block up, make it look nice. And then I think I'll pull the coil packs off, valve covers off. We'll paint this little bracket. We'll clean this. I'll take this to work tomorrow with me. The valve covers, clean them all off so they make it look nice. Also a black motor. We'll kind of clean up the aluminum cylinder head with just a little, you know, a little brush and some brake clean. Clean valve covers, everything on top, and it'll be essentially ready to go. Put a water pump on and slap her all together. Obviously, we'll do the oil pan. We'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow when we bolt this thing all back together. It's all nice and painted. Sounds like a good plan, guys. Okay, I just looked this up on the Chilton manual, and this is the way you take it apart. Haha. Man. Oh, there's 3. Man. You know, I'm wondering if what I did on the other car, I might have cut this out. I'll have to double check. There you go, one more bolt in the back. I might as well take it out. You guys are just in the way like usual. Kind of the right side. There we go. Stripped right down. Keep all your metric hardware. If you're a guy like me who has no metric hardware, you'll need metric hardware. Metric hardware. So let's get to clean this real quick. Okay, so we got this thing all apart. I pulled the coil packs off. You want to see how dirty it is in this motor? What? 8 mil? Hang on. As I was saying, let's see what the inside of this motor looks like. It was relatively low miles. We'll see what the maintenance program was. And then we'll just put a quick coat of paint on this. Wow. Man, this thing had some oil changes done. It's mint. So far, so good. I gotta say, this was a pretty good truck someone had. Look at that. Not full of junk or nothing. So we'll just go ahead and set that back on there for now. We're gonna get the paint. I'm gonna just paint, oh well, we'll let this dry off, just brake clean it all. We'll paint the block a little, and then, yeah, we'll wipe down the cylinder heads, the valley pan and all that tomorrow. But overall, it should go pretty good. Clean valve covers, painted block, clean up everything on the top, it'll look just fine. All you're gonna see is above the headers and the front dress. So if we put a new water pump on it, I think I have another alternator if this one's no good, but probably be fine. Look how simple this thing is now. That's completely disassembled and won't work. It's fine. Okay, it's a day or two later. Anyways, I cleaned these valve covers. They're kind of tarnished, but you know what? They look all right. It looks like I need one valve cover gasket. Probably only come in pairs, story of my life. Yeah, so we got this pile of junk. So we're gonna finish kind of cleaning it up. So I'm draining the oil out of the pan. A little tech tip here from the old Loop Tech days. Piece of cardboard basically puts the oil wherever the hell you want it. So we'll get that taken care of. I think I'm gonna take the oil pan off while it's still, be a little more work right now. Take the oil pan off while it's sitting upright. Take it straight down, as much oil as I can out of it. And then I can flip it upside down. We want to do the pan, because in this pan we got to do, I should probably clean some of this dirt out, eh? But we have to do, I don't know where I put it, pickup tube, oh right there. New pickup tube, O-ring, a few little things like that. It came with some new hardware, lock-off plates. We'll do all that flippity-flop, but if we flip it upside down right now, because there's still gonna be a little bit of oil in the pan, obviously. This thing's been sitting for, call it a week, vertically. So all the oil has gone down. If we flip it upside down, that, you know, third of a liter or something like that will make a hell of a mess. So we're trying to work clean here, just fluke. So I'm gonna take this oil pan off and I'll show you what it looks like underneath right away here. Up top, I'll probably get the vacuum out, try and get some of this. I did it when it was in the truck, but probably do a bit better of a job, but we're keeping it clean. We got rags and everything, so basically a race motor here. So oil pan off, man, I gotta say, LS motors with their like O-ring style or whatever it is gaskets, they're pretty much reusable. They're the ticket. So you can clearly see the difference in these two pans in height. This one is 2 inches taller, like 2 inches more sump, and I believe the sump is 1 inch longer as well. So at the base, and it even kind of kicks up in this here, so maybe it's even longer there. I don't know. I did some measuring, but I assume there's less oil capacity. I don't remember, but probably there must be. It's a smaller pan. Something wider, anything like that. Pretty much, it's an oil pan. What else is there? We have a brand new gasket in this kit, which is pretty sweet. I don't remember that last time I got this Holly thing, but oh well. And here's your miscellaneous bits. So I'll be using all new hardware, a couple of long bolts at the back. This little O-ring, that's the important bit. So these LS motors, I guess it's pretty common for them to have oil pressure issues. And the number one thing to check is, I think, that little O-ring on the pickup tube. I guess it goes bad or shrinks or whatever it is. She no bueno. So obviously that's our pickup tube. This one is, nice little thing. It bolts in, has its little support stand. We're going to simply replace it. There's one bolt that holds it in, and at the end of this, there, that's where the O-ring is. So that's your little sealing area. Guess we can see in there and see the timing gear chain. It's there. What else are we going to do? We'll clean this up just real kind of loose. You don't got to do much. Just run a razor blade on it, get the kind of junk off. And then we'll be able to put the new pan back on after we change this. So I'll come back and we'll put this on together. That way, if there's a mistake, we're all guilty when there's no oil pressure when we fire this thing up in 6 months. Okay, so we cleaned up the mating surface, just a little bit of a Scotch-Brite pad, real gentle. And we're going to go ahead and take this apart. So take this out, put this bolt over here so we lose it. Oh, there's another one. That's not a 10, it's a 13. Hang on. Oh, we got 13 out on a half-inch drive, just in case this is super tight. I believe this is just windage tray, so we'll go ahead and torque it back on. There was 0 instructions with this kit, so I guess it's just do whatever you want when you put it back together. So I'll take this out. What's going on here? There's another one right there. Duh. Oh, they really don't want this falling out, eh? Pretty good if I just ripped it off. LS for amateurs, or idiots, whatever you want to call it. Get this off. Boom. Store that tool away nicely. Oh yeah, comes out way nicer. Now this thing did have good oil pressure, so I think what happens, oh, the O-ring's stuck in there. What happens is they have low oil pressure at idle, but then when you goose it, they do better. So obviously there's just a little, the other one will have the same thing. There's a little indentation. This goes in there. It is kind of flat on the sides. Maybe that's what happens to them. They go bad. But I'll blow some brake clean there real quick and I'll come right back and we'll put the new one back together. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of screwing around. I mean, on a regular small block Chevy, big block Chevy, or whatever, you got to kind of put the pan on and see where you want to have your pickup and all that. It's a bit of a hassle, and you got to tackle it together. This, took it off. Slightly different design. This has a little kind of groove for the O-ring to sit in. The Holly one doesn't, just got a little stop on it. I did put a little bit of engine oil on there. I always find that that's the way to do it, where it goes in nice and easily. Now, just kind of line that up. Push this in. A little nerve-wracking because you don't want it to be wrong, but nope. Clearly felt good. We hear the old clunk. Put that on there. Came with some new mounting hardware. So we'll put those in there. And they got the little like serrated edge, so I guess they're like lockers, which is pretty good. So get that on. I don't want to drop this in the motor. Can't talk and work at the same time. We'll put the two little nuts on the windage tray and the pickup tube, and they'll come back and we'll put the gasket on, pan on. We're dialed. Okay, so we got a new piece in, still secured. I downloaded some instructions. It said, I guess for some of them, you gotta make sure that the tube isn't gonna be touching or interfering with the crank throw. Well, this is obviously off the side and has a windage tray, so that's fine. Said, watch where your dipstick is. Well, it's below the pickup, so I think we're fine there as well. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see I remember if it interferes. Oh, it doesn't look okay. Well, it looks like it even has like a little jot out where the dipstick is. So that should be all good. Factory tube in there. I used the factory tube in the last one I did, so I'm sure it'll be good. We got a new gasket on there. It only kind of goes one way. And yeah, let's see what happens here. Wow, not having to silicone it and screw around. What a concept. Oh, we got a little, we got to thread the needle here. Oh. What we got going on here? Perfect. Seemed like it went on no problem. So now, make sure that's all squared up. And we'll, dipstick tube still in there. Oh yeah, goes in easy. Gasket moved just a little bit. Push that back. Put it all together, it's brand new hardware. And then all we gotta do, block off plate for the cooler. So on these LS pans, the oil filter is actually right on in the pan itself, which is kind of a unique thing, I guess. Well, I shouldn't say unique, it's just what they did. And I think I gotta transfer over the spindle, the nut for the oil filter itself off the old pan onto the new one. Oh no, I don't. Holly has it. Block off plate. So we got that together. Bring this thing back, then really spin it over. I think we're done. Look at that pan. We got a spindle on. There's some junk in there. Block off plate on. Now, if you're noticing, we're missing a bolt. So I started having a little bit of a panic. I'm like, well, that's weird. So I look at the other pan. Well, it had the, it has a hole in it. I'm looking. I'm like, well, it must be drilled in a different spot. It's got the same gasket. And then I'm like, oh. Nope. Nothing there. So be it. Got that all dialed together. I gave her a couple of dunk on the old DeWalt. We'll flip her over, clean it up. We'll set the intake on. We'll change the throttle body. We're gonna have ourselves like a minty little small block Chevy LS motor. So there we go. We got our little hot rod LS motor. So I mean, bone stock, nothing too serious. We put on our drive-by cable throttle body, so that's all good. One thing, it's a little different. The steam port ran through the bottom of the other one, but I think it was just a pass-through, so just be aware of that. You'll be fine. The truck manifold, it will work. It will fit under the hood of a Tri-5 Chevy. I've done that. They're a little ugly. A lot of guys trim them and body work them and do all sorts of stuff. Nah, I'm not doing any of that. There is one thing, the drive-by-wire setups use the same intake manifold, but there's a few little bosses there that don't have any nutserts in them for like a bracket. Obviously, there's no need for a bracket for a throttle cable when it's drive-by-wire, so we're gonna have to fabricate something up there. So this motor here, it should make like 330 or something like that horsepower, or 320. I forget what the factory rating is. The Holly on it, it obviously optimizes timing and stuff like that for performance versus fuel mileage, which is what we're going after. A set of headers, I mean, it'll be a decent little mill. We can't really complain. I am going to order the Holly Terminator kit. We have to know from there is what motor it is, or some crank number. I don't know, you got to figure out what that is. And the injectors, I believe this is like your standard truck injector, so I'll just kind of order that up. And we'll carry on, so hopefully that's in stock. I should have probably checked before we did all this work, but that goes in after the fact anyways. So that's what we're doing for now. Again, this isn't necessarily the cheapest. It's not necessarily the best, but in my mind, I think it's the most optimized combination for someone who has a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of money, and you want kind of the best parts bought. At this point now, you're you could change the cam and all that anytime if that's what you want to do. Change the intake manifold. I think we spent the money where we're going to save our most amount of ease, and it's going to kind of last the longest and look the best. The oil pan for me is a no-brainer versus cutting and welding. I've seen lots of guys do that. Not for me. A set of headers, they'll just fit. You're golden. Clean it all up, and then use the factory stuff the best you can. The front dress will work. We won't have any issues there. Change over the throttle body just for ease, and we should be golden. I'll order that Terminator kit, and this thing will be running. Obviously, we got fuel system and all that stuff coming down the pipe, but that'll be once in the car. I don't know what we're going to do next. This might go on the stand, just sit for a little bit, because we do have to pull the motor and everything out of that wagon. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if that's next. We got a bazillion things on the go, but there you go. One episode of LS stuff. We can get back to having fun.